Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Join the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome back for another edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. I'm your host, Ken M. Joining me in the studio, as always, is the co-host. It's Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And returning to the panel, he has a lot to say, so we are going to try speeding through the recap of the wildcard weekend because he wants to address the Giants coaching hire. It is your coach. It is my coach. It is the coach, Coach Duffy.
I was going to open with a Jason Garrett joke, but I will now just leave you with a punchline.
Please clap.
The Giants.
Wow, we have a lot to discuss in that segment, but we got to get to some business first. First and foremost, joining the conversation on social media, OchoDuroParlayHour.com, and it has links to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram. We definitely want to interact with you. We have a lot to discuss in the land of sports, and we also want to make a quick note to shout out to Wonder Soul. He actually came up with this idea in our group NXTWAVE. In our show notes, we have links for the Australian Red Cross Disaster Relief and Recovery Fund. Obviously, with everything going on in Australia, with the wildfires going on, our hearts and good positive vibes go out to everybody down there. We're hoping everybody is safe. And obviously, if you can donate anything to help in the recovery and relief in that terrible situation going on down there, please do. The links are in the show notes. Shout out to all our listeners and all our podcast friends down in Australia right now. Like I say, we hope you're very safe, and we're hoping just for the speediest of relief and recovery to you.
Yeah, and if you're not able to donate, it might be a college student or money might be a little tight. That's fine. We totally understand. Just take the link, share it on your social media, raise awareness, because I know there's a lot of questions going around right now. Hey, where can I help? Where can I donate? A lot of people jump to, GoFundMe or one of those sites, and, some of those might not always be the most reputable things. So you can literally go to redcross.org.au and then go. That's the Australian Red Cross website, because it is truly a terrible situation down there. According to some reports, the wildfires may have killed 500 million animals down there, and that that's hard on the ecosystem and everything down there. I know some celebrities have helped out. Chris Hemsworth has pledged $1 million to it. The Irwin family is doing everything they can, but they need all the help they can get right now.
Absolutely. So please share the link. So obviously, if people can help, obviously donate if you can. If not, just keep bringing awareness to it so somebody can see it and somebody can try helping out as well. And like I say, our hearts and thoughts are out to everybody in Australia right now with the terrible tragedy going on. That being said, we have a show to do, so let's jump right back into the swing of things. It is NFL season on the podcast. The wild card weekend is upon us. A lot of great games going on. We have to recap the action going on to the road to the Super Bowl. Let's start with the AFC wild card, and Pad, I guess I'll take the bullet on this one. The Buffalo Bills traveled to the Houston Texans and came up short.
They came up close
in a dramatic fashion, losing 22-19.
It was almost like a Western movie. The end of it, you got the bad guy and the hero, maybe a John Wayne type standing off center of town, high noon.
Yeah, this one definitely had a lot going on with that. You got the stats lined up?
Yep. So like you said, the Houston Texans defeated the Buffalo Bills by the final score of 22-19. Deshaun Watson, 20 of 25 for 247 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Josh Allen, 24 of 46 for 264 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
Coach, your thoughts?
I got 3 takeaways from this game. One being, I don't watch the Bills, so I didn't see it enough. How you would talk about McDermott and how terrible he is under 2 minutes. I didn't believe it. I'm a believer now. Because, my God, he was awful that last drive. 2, Deshaun Watson. I understand now why when they talked about the Jordan factor that he has, because that man has it. That was the it factor. That is what you look for in a quarterback. Him spinning out of that sack by
two
defenders coming out of it, still able to make a play, keeping his head up the entire time. Tremendous. And then number 3, Booger McFarland might be the worst color commentary guy I've ever heard in my life. And I do it, and I don't even do it for a living. and I feel like I'm more competent than he is.
I mean, the fact that Booger McFarland has become very much a meme. If you go into
Oh my God, my favorite.
If you ever go into the comment section of any football-related post on Facebook,
Yeah.
be it a meme, an article, there is going to be a Booger McFarland meme somewhere in there. No, I'm with you, Coach, though, with how bad and suspect Buffalo's play calling can be. With 2 minutes to go, I've only seen 2 Bills games this season, and that was because I happened to be off of work and whatnot. But watching that game, and we were at Excite, watching the game on my phone, you obviously can freaking out, and 2 minutes and just the play calling, and I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah, there is no way to describe it other than the Bills are a young team. They jumped out to an early lead. The Billy special, as I was hearing it was getting called, the Brown
That's
to
what they were
Josh
trying
Allen.
to.
Yeah, which is like, stop. It was just play. It's not the Philly special. Let it go. But the Bills jumped out early. They were playing great. They really were giving Houston problems, which is awesome to see if you're a Bills fan. I was very happy. Like Pat was touching upon, we were actually Coach was with us too at Excite Wrestling. And obviously going into it, I was like, okay, 13-0 at halftime. I will take this. Let's see where we go from here. Obviously, what happened with the kickoff and the whole, is it a touchdown or a touchback? We don't know, really threw momentum off. But at this stage, Houston showed why they have been playoff tested. They started slowly coming back. They didn't panic. The Bills, on the other hand, I don't know what was going on in that third quarter other than just inexperience on their end.
Right, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, the whole kickoff touchdown, was it a touchdown, was it not thing. That's one that, as a team, you got to sit there and go, all right, is what it is. Nothing we can do about it. Let's not dwell on it. Next play.
Yeah, and obviously for the Bills, they couldn't get over that hump. And obviously as the half started progressing forward, they were just making very bad decisions offensively and defensively. I think Josh Allen was pressing himself a little too much and trying to make stuff happen, which they didn't need to. Is just you needed to manage the game. I thought the play calling by Dabble in the second half was very bad. Why did you stop using Singletary as much as you used him in the first half? This is almost like a Dallasism.
Well, I mean, to be fair, they didn't use Singletary all that much. He had 13 carries for the entire game.
Right, but to take him out of the equation as much as they did.
I mean, what I don't understand is when you have J.J. Watt, who's now starting to take over and finding that fifth gear in that fourth quarter, because all the first quarter second quarter he'd been quiet. And then all of a sudden on that fourth quarter drive, under 2 minutes, now he's getting pressure on the quarterback. They and we talked about how they were lining the tight end to chip him.
Yeah.
How you're not keeping a running back in there to help alleviate the pass rush, because not only was J.J. Watt coming after you, but the rest of the Texans' defense was.
Well, and that crowd was loud, and they had the one shot of, I think the refs were deciding on to make a penalty call or not, and you could just see Watt. They had the shot from field level where Watt was just standing there doing the whole get loud thing.
Yeah.
He was feeding off that crowd.
And I mean, not only can he at least chip and then get into a safety valve, a safety release position where he can be there in the flat for Josh Allen to dump to, for him to either get out of bounds or at least to not take a sack, maybe throw an incomplete pass to or something, because at the end of the game, when you're trying to drive, passes that are short and keep in bounds or sacks kill you, because you've got receivers that are running deep routes, and then you got to wait for them to come all the way back to formation. So if you take a sack, let's just say you lose 7 yards, and now you got these speed ride receivers. I mean, Josh Brown's probably, let's just say you're at the 30, he's running a fly. All of a sudden, he's at the 40-yard line, the opposite side of the field. You take a sack, you lose 7 yards.
Yeah.
Now you're on the 23.
Yeah.
He's got to fly all the way back to get in the line for the next play. So there's more time ticking off the clock. So it's like to have those small things with having a running back stay in to be the chip, to then release into the flat to keep the ball rolling and keep the offense going. I mean, dinking and dumping is what New England has done under 2 minutes for years, and it's what's been successful.
Well, and putting a running back in to even block any of the pass rushers was something you said while we were watching the game, especially on that final drive Buffalo had in the fourth quarter, where you were saying, I remember, they got to put a guy in to block Watt or block anybody, and I'm sitting there and we're watching the game, I'm like, they're going with an empty backfield.
Yeah, and then, I mean, they were leaving the tight end a little bit to chip him, or at least have J.J. Watt have to run a little bit wider of a pass rush instead of being able to just bull rush that right tackle. But still, though, I mean, even just leaving your tight end in isn't enough, because then the tight end was running routes. I mean, and specifically that third down play where Josh Allen took that huge sack, It was like you were in field goal position.
Yeah.
Why are you not trying? Because at this point, it's like with under 30 seconds left to go in the game, you don't need to play for the win, or it was under a minute, right?
It was under a minute.
Yeah. You don't need to play for the win. Play for the tie. Get the points on the board. Put pressure on Houston to either have to drive down, score, or ultimately let them kneel the clock out and then go into overtime. And instead, they take this tremendously bad sack where it was a 5 wide receiver, nobody in the backfield.
Yep.
Everybody's running routes. The tight end was calling for a fly route. He was over the middle instead of being there for Josh Allen to have. And I mean, they just bull rushed him. There's nothing he could. And again, this is a young quarterback who had no idea what to do when he faced that kind of pressure. So instead of just trying to heave the ball out of bounds, he tried getting out of the pressure and lost 34, like almost 30 yards.
Yeah, there were moments though, and I remember one pass he had in the fourth quarter where we were watching, and I know Ken was sitting there going, throw it, because he was getting pressure and he scrambled around a little bit. But I'm sitting here watching, and we're like, no, he's all right. Give him a second, because there was pressure, but it's not like they were bearing down on him. Yeah, it was kind of near him, but not enough to like start going, oh crap.
Yeah, so that one was bad though.
He's got his moments, but he's still young.
You touched it right on the head. He is young, so this is a learning experience he needed to go through. And the offensive line was not doing him any favors, especially Cody Ford was having an atrocious fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that was weird because, again, you didn't hear the pass rush all game.
No.
And then that last fourth quarter drive, it was reminiscent of the old Giant days when they would just get it, they would be quiet all through the first 3 quarters. They might have a sack or, a tackle for loss, but then all of a sudden you give those 4 Bulls the go-ahead and the green light, and, that defensive line was coming after you, and that's exactly what this was.
Josh Allen got sacked 3 times for a 27-yard loss, but you look at the quarterback hits. Houston had 11 quarterback hits.
Yeah, they touched it.
I mean, but 11, I mean, of those 11, probably 7 or 8 were that final 4 minutes in overtime.
Oh, I fully agree. No, the final stretch run, if you want to say from 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter to overtime, I would say 75% of those hits were there.
Probably.
And that was just the offensive line being gassed. Ford was having an atrocious time stopping J.J. Watt, which I was surprised they didn't put Frank Gore in there to help him.
That's the perfect person to put in.
Exactly. That's what you have there.
And that's why you have him. That is why that veteran running back is in. And again, this is the same stuff that the Patriots, the Giants copied it for years too, especially the 2 Super Bowl runs. Yeah, obviously, there were the 2 immaculate receptions by David Tyree and Mario Manningham on third downs.
My mind is blank on those.
Yeah, those didn't happen for some reason in Pad's world here. But
yeah. Those are not the passes you were looking for.
It was Ahmad Bradshaw. It was Ahmad Bradshaw twice. It was Brandon Jacobs getting key catches on those drives that were able to carry first downs because they caught it, in the flat and were able to run because there was no defender near them. And that's exactly but again, that comes with play calling, and that's what McDermott needs to learn.
Yeah, exactly, and that's something he desperately needs to do. And I've been saying it on the show for so long now.
And I didn't believe you. I when you had said that you were fearful under 2 minutes, and this is the perfect example. It's the 4th down, and it was after the Cole Beasley catch where it was reviewed. So there was about 30-ish, maybe less seconds left to go on the clock.
About 28, I thought.
About there, and. They were like debating whether they were going to go for it to kick the field goal, depending on whatever the thing was. And Josh Allen's on the sideline.
Yeah.
And then it was ruled a first down. And instead of just simply running Allen out on the field or leaving Allen out and rushing on the punter in case they had to kick the field goal, you have your punter who hasn't taken a snap all year, besides probably emergency situations in practice, which they probably, I would assume that's not something that's practiced very often unless you're Bill Belichick.
No.
He's the only guy who's thinking that kind of next level. All of a sudden, he's taking your snap to clock the ball.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. I don't care. There's still enough time, and honestly, they should have just let more time expire by bringing out Josh Allen to let him catch the snap and spike it.
Yeah. This is why I say McDermott was going to come back to haunt him in the 2 minutes left in the game. And like I said, him and Dabble, I really was struggling with their play calling going in the fourth quarter. Really did. Because especially if you notice, and we talk about the dink and dunk, notice how when the Bills need to get in field goal range to tie the game to send it to overtime, what do they do?
Streaks.
A dink pass to Singletary, and he took off for 45 yards.
Right. But then the rest of the patterns were all
they're
go
all
routes.
they
were all running ones.
Yeah, which it was like, why? Like, okay, I call that in my Madden game because, well,
That's probably what Madden's suggesting.
yeah. But other than that, it's like, what the heck are you calling? And this came back to haunt. I mean, they're lucky they came back to tie.
You know,
They
everybody gives Eli shit for checkdowns, but there's a reason why you check down.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
Because you get first downs off of it.
But like I say, this is something that Josh has to learn, and he's been getting better, but he's not there yet.
Well, and I don't even put this on him though.
No.
that sack. Yes, you have to know that where the pressure's coming from and where to throw the ball. But again, or to get rid of the ball, just one way or another, you can't take that sack.
Get rid of the ball that doesn't involve him throwing the ball 40 yards downfield out of the back of the end zone.
Right. Well, just either way, you can't take a sack there because
No.
you have no timeouts. You're in field goal range. You gotta just get rid of the ball. So with that being said, you know, it goes back to play calling though, and it goes and it's insane to me that off of that game, because I mean Buffalo's offense, while good, wasn't great all year.
No.
And I definitely don't off of this one performance and everything that you've discussed with us, because I feel informed about this Buffalo team. I would not put that on Josh Allen.
No.
I 100% put that on the coaching staff.
Well, that's another point, though, is a young staff with a young quarterback. Because let's face it, McDermott's only been coached for, 3 years now?
Sure.
Yeah, so he's still finding his way. And the 2 minutes have always been an issue since he had Tyrod Taylor as his quarterback.
Well, that goes to show.
Apples and oranges.
Right,
though.
right.
But the point is, he struggles in those 2 minutes. It showed. And especially for a team that couldn't get any more offense going in that second half, and you allowed a veteran Houston team to creep back, let alone get two-point conversions.
Yeah, and I mean credit to Houston, because I mean they had no business being in this game with how Buffalo was playing, and their defense stayed in. That bend don't break, gave up those field goals, but knew, you know, we're going to come back and we're going to win this game. And the whole time you could tell that the momentum had slowly shifted. Every time that Buffalo kicked the field goal, you could feel that momentum going back to New England. And like I told you, that one drive when Buffalo kicked the field goal, I go, they need 7.
Yeah.
You cannot settle for 3. And points are good, but when you can tell, when you've settled for 2-3 field goals in a row, and then you're driving, and then you kick a 4th, that team that just scored previously now knows that they're in the game. And that's exactly what happened here.
Exactly. The veteran team took over, and they took advantage of the inexperienced one. And once they got to overtime, the Bills had their chances, but yet again, bad penalties and
missed tackles.
And missed tackles, too.
And missed tackles.
Because, I mean, to put the cherry on the sundae for that, Deshaun Watson had his Jordan moment. He had his highlight.
His Eli Manning moment.
However you want to define it. Well, how he escaped those sacks in overtime, which he should have been dead to rights. The atrocious and egregious tackling. Led to a 45-yard drive downfield that put him right on the 10-yard line.
I've been saying that for 13 years.
Yeah.
Just sliced them like bread.
Eli Manning should have been dead to rights in that Super Bowl where they had him by the bottom of his jersey and he threw it and David Tyree caught it. I've been saying that for 13 years.
Yeah, I just had to relive it. I mean, first off...
Well, that was the funny thing is that we were watching and Coach goes, oh my God, how did he get out of that? And what's the first thing
he said?
I go, now you know how I felt in that Super Bowl.
Yeah, and obviously this was to a lesser degree because once I got to the 19-point field goal there, I was having people text me Scott Norwood, and I'm like, hey, thanks, though. Thanks.
Hey, I mean, listen, weirder shit has happened. I definitely, you know, you can't count the fact that the kicker might miss it, but I mean, it was a dink. It was an easy kick. I mean, they went through that defense like Swiss cheese.
Oh yeah,
they just drove right down the field.
Well, the Bills were tired and they're gassed.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. And you could tell they were emotionally. They had spent themselves on the first 4. Really 3 3/4 quarters, and then by the time it got to overtime, with how much momentum that Houston had, being at home, even though the Buffalo crowd came out, which was tremendous. I mean, I don't think there's a better crowd that travels outside of the Bills. From Jacksonville last year to now this year,
Bills Mafia travels deep.
I don't know any team traveling to the Rams Stadium travels well.
Right. Well, that's a whole different universe over there.
But I mean, I'll say though, I mean the atmosphere probably in the beginning of the game and most way through the second and third quarter probably felt like a Buffalo home game. But then everything changed. Like we said, the momentum happened, and you can't leave a team that feels confident in themselves like that. I mean, another good example is under that overtime drive. The fact that DeAndre Hopkins wasn't getting double teamed, is especially with Will Fuller not being in the game.
Yeah, and
dumb.
They didn't press him on the line too.
Yeah,
they let him get 10 yards easy.
Yeah, that one. I mean, that hitch that he ran. I mean, he was wide open.
That third and 11, he's already got 13 yards by the time he caught the ball. It's like, come on.
Yeah, you got to double team him. I mean, especially with Will Fuller not in the game. I mean, Kenny Stills does not strike fear in you.
No.
You got to double team him. You got to take away what Deshaun Watson wants to go to, and that's him.
And that's why I was looking for Trey White on that. I was like, where are you? And he needed help, and he didn't get it. But like I say, to sum this game up, though, I give tip of the cap to the Houston Texans. They fought back. They showed why they were a veteran team. They showed why they should be considered a team that could make it to the Super Bowl. They do need some work, though, because obviously them traveling to Kansas City is not going to be an easy task.
They weren't afraid in week 4 or 5, whatever that week was.
And that's the thing. They have the veteran confidence that the Bills need to develop, and I think they're going to. Because I think, if anything, this is a good learning experience for the Bills.
Well,
they had a great season, and this is something they can build from.
I'll say, I mean, obviously we're going to talk about the Patriot game next.
Yes.
But if I'm the Bills, I feel very confident in the season that we just had going into the offseason, knowing what's going on with New England, knowing the fact that you just took a team on the road again to its limit. And if I'm Houston, I'm hoping that Will Fuller comes back for this game against Kansas City, because Kansas City's defense right now is playing a lot better than Buffalo's defense. And if you only have DeAndre Hopkins, and I mean, I will say this, and I don't know if we'll get to this, but I want to bring it up. If Steve Spagnuolo is able to lead this Kansas City team to the Super Bowl, and he's able to stop Baltimore, and he's able to slow down this Houston team, I would argue and dare to say that Steve Spagnuolo is the greatest defensive coordinator of all time.
At least for this era.
Not only would he have beaten the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl, but then he would have also beaten the number one rush/scoring offense this side of the Mississippi in the last 10 years.
I would say probably at least for this era, because it's very hard to compare.
Yeah, I mean, modern era, sure.
And this and that. It's hard to, but for this era, yeah.
I would say within the past 20 years, that's a very debatable topic.
Not a great head coach.
No.
But my God, that man can put a defense together.
He's a DC. He's not an HC.
He's
by
not.
any means. But speaking
or an ST either.
Yes. But speaking of HCs, we got to go to the other side of the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
And dare I say, the student has become the master, maybe?
Well, what is it? Belichick's record against
not good.
former players is now 13-14.
Former players and coaches.
Yeah, like going against them, Belichick is now 13-14.
Yeah, it's not good.
So, no. Pat, do you want to break this down?
Yeah, so the Tennessee Titans defeated the New England Patriots by the final score of 20-13. Ryan Tannehill, 8 of 15 for 72 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Tom Brady.
What? I didn't know that.
Tom Brady, 20 of 37 for 209
God.
yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, you might be going, holy crap, like Coach Duffy, how did they only throw the ball 15 times? That is because they ran the ball down their throat.
Oh, I knew that they were averaging about 7 yards a carry.
Derrick Henry, 34 carries, 182 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Now, the other stat I have for you, teams that rush over 100 yards against the Patriots in the playoffs going into this game were 3-3. They now with this, they're 3-4. I don't care what team you're going up against. If you got a guy running 182 yards on you in a game, you got a hard time winning that
34 carries, my God.
Yeah.
When's the last time you heard a running back go 20 or greater, 25 or greater?
Yeah.
I mean, 34 carries is a workload.
The Bears in 86, 85.
Well,
yeah,
right. I mean, again, we're
Yeah,
talking modern era. We're talking one guy.
Modern era, you don't hear this. And this is why I've said before, and I'll say it again. Tennessee plays grind football.
What's the one thing I've said about the Patriots defense, as much vaunted as it gets during the season? What's the one thing I said they suck in?
Stopping the run.
Stopping the run.
Right.
That Cleveland game where they had 3 turnovers in the span of fucking like 3 minutes or whatever absurd thing it was. Yeah, they'd played great, but I was watching Nick Chubb run down their throat.
Dominating that. I mean, a perfect example is that fumble that he had on that opening drive where Cleveland was walking into the end zone and all of a sudden he gets stripped on like the 20-yard line.
Yeah, because he decided to not wear gloves in a rainy game.
Yeah. But no, I mean, this Tennessee team, they're not going to win pretty, and that is perfectly fine with Vrabel. I think he feeds off of that. This team feeds off of it. Derrick Henry went from being a just another Alabama running back coming through the NFL.
Almost forgotten.
Well, yep, that would eventually, inevitably phase himself out like a lot of Alabama running backs do.
Eddie Lacy, Trent Richardson.
Exactly.
List goes on.
Yeah, that eventually just fizzle out, and he is reborn, a resurgence, especially last year after that. I mean, it was literally that 100-yard carry last year that just vaunted him into being a premier running back, which is like the weirdest thing because he was an afterthought. And then all of a sudden, one 99-yard rush, and then all of a sudden it was like, Derrick Henry's alive? And then, boom, he was here. And this playoff game was basically a coming out party for him. You got it. And the funny thing is and a Patriot thing and a Belichick scheme is to take away something that you're good at, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously there's two things that Tennessee thrives on, which is the run and then play action. So if you're bad at stopping the run, don't you think that then your thing that you would want to take away is the run and not worry about the play action? Because ultimately your secondary is probably the best that it's ever been.
Yeah.
Why would you even worry about the play action when the fact that your corners can be on an island and stop? I mean, who is Tennessee's even receivers anyway?
Looking at it, nobody that I recognize. I mean, they're second.
Exactly. They got the rookie that had a good year.
They got Anthony Ferkser was their leading receiver on 2 catches. Derrick Henry was second, and then the only other name I recognize here is Dion Lewis.
Right. So why not just shut them out on the outside? Right. Let the 2 corners there go. Let them play them man to man. Have 1 deep safety, and then put 9 in the box, put 8 in the box. That's what I would have done. That's pretty simple.
I think this is just something that nobody realized how good Tennessee's run offense is.
I mean, that's pretty. I mean, the week before Derrick Henry had 20 carries for 100+ yards,
and I grant you, but I think this is something that the Patriots were not expecting so much.
I think that they were more what I'm trying. If I could jump inside the brain and John Malkovich, Bill Belichick, what I'm thinking that they were trying to do was they're thinking that they were going to be able to score on Tennessee's defense because they're not a good defense.
No,
they are an okay defense.
Yeah,
they are a decent defense.
They're a palpable defense.
Yeah, they're going to get by, but they're not going to win games for you like other defenses would. So what I'm thinking is that they were like, okay, if we score and we can bend, don't break, and limit Tennessee to field goals, we will be in this game. And we could win this game because we have Tom Brady as our quarterback.
Right, but he needs somebody to catch the ball, and that's one thing he hasn't had all year. Yes, Julian Edelman is there, but who the hell else is catching that ball?
Right, and I get that. But what I'm just trying to jump inside his mind here, and what he was trying to, so if we take away and limit them on the pass and their big play potential, and we focus on, letting them run the ball, clock, keeping the clock running, we get the ball back because we're going to bend, don't break, and we're going to limit them in field goals, then we're going to go down, we're going to score 7-3. Then they come back and kick a field goal again, 7-6. We go down and score again, 14-6. You see what I'm saying? That's what that's the only way I can understand that would have been their game plan, because I don't understand how you don't stop the run and let your corners be on islands. And then to your point, Pad, New England's offense sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was the worst offense they've ever had. And all right, Gronk retires. You let Danny Amendola go. Mm-hmm. Then they let the other slot receiver go, right? Then they let somebody else. There was 2 guys that left.
Cordell Patterson left.
Yeah. You left Cordell Patterson, and then you cut AB. You cut Josh Gordon, who obviously ended up getting in more trouble.
Didn't they trade? They cut him.
Yeah, they cut him. They cut him. And then you just leave yourself with nothing. And, I mean, there's guys out there that you could have brought for a tryout. I mean, Kelvin Benjamin comes to mind, at least somebody that you could have kicked tread on just to see what was left. Or figured out whatever the AB situation was. I mean, they've taken in guys that have had problems before, and it's turned into gold. So their offense, though, did no favors for Tom Brady.
No, I mean, their leading rusher was Sony Michel, 14 carries for 61 yards. Nothing you can really do with that. Their leading receiver was James White, 5 catches, 62 yards. After that was Ben Watson, the tight end, 3 catches for 38 yards. It sounds like he's retiring once it's all said and done here. Then you've got Rex Burkhead. So out of your 3 leading receivers, 2 of them are running backs.
Yeah, and that's not good.
No, that's what I was saying. I don't think there was something. I understand what you're pointing, and I would say under normal circumstances, the other would have been Patriots' game plan, that they'd be able to score right away, but they didn't have any wide receivers. So for this, I think that Belichick might have taken him too lightly. Not saying that he takes anybody lightly, but I think what he's saying is, okay, if we can stop Henry early, then we have to make Ryan Tannehill beat us. And that became the challenge, that Ryan Tannehill, of all people, stepped up and managed the game, played it right along with Derrick Henry, and really jumped out to surprise him a bit. Because the game was a lot closer than I think we're alluding to. I mean, it was 14-13 at halftime. But to see how Tennessee, they were the ones who bent but didn't break, and to slow up Tom Brady and company, where usually you get in that fourth quarter and you think Brady's going to drive right down the field. Albeit, though, Vrabel's game plan for that second half was really played to perfection. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he did the Belichick playbook steal of killing time on the clock, I thought was really telling.
Well, it was. And the other thing I should know is this wasn't the first time these two teams have met. They played each other in the preseason. I think it was like week 1. And the thing the Patriots do, and I'm not sure if other teams do this as well, the entire week leading up to the preseason game, they practiced with each other. So this is a team that the offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators from both sides got to see each other a lot.
Right, which it came to play of how close the game was. But I think, though, where the Patriots usually make those second half adjustments, they really didn't have the players on the field to really slow down Derrick Henry.
Right.
It's not a slight to him. Derrick Henry just played the game of his life, so to speak.
I mean, Tom Brady literally made chicken salad out of chicken shit. This was, in all the years I've been watching Patriots football, the worst offensive team they have ever had. And the fact that they made it, honestly, the fact that they made it to a 12-4 record and even made it to the playoffs slightly astounds me.
Well, it's because they were on the shoulders of their defense.
They
played really well.
Right, which the defense had played solid all year. I mean, they haven't played great, but they played solid enough. And the Patriots are pretty even keel when it comes to that. You know the mystique with Belichick and Brady. You get that. And you have to go into Foxborough. You have to play the game of your life to beat them in the playoffs. The Tennessee Titans did that. And they played very smart football. They played their style and imposed their will. It's nothing to take away from the Patriots. The Patriots are just a different team this year than the mystique of years past, where they always had somebody to step up. Their wide receiver core is atrocious.
Yeah.
And obviously now going into the offseason,
oh boy,
there's a lot of uncertainty. And And what I thought was really foolish, and I know I made this post on my personal Facebook page, let the Titans have this win. We don't need to ask Tom Brady right after losing this game. And I'm sorry, I'm throwing away that nonsense touchdown interception he had. Is he retiring right after this game?
Oh, you know that's for the clicks.
You know, that's. I mean, media is going to be media.
Yeah,
they're gonna do what they do, and that's that. I mean, he gets up there to a press conference. That's the first thing they're going to ask. I mean, the narrative should be, Tennessee won this game, and I don't disagree with you, but I mean, Tom Brady hasn't necessarily done himself any favors in that department either by putting the house on the market, only having a 1-year deal, all these underlying things. I mean, the media has to do their job, and that's a question that they need to ask.
Which I get, but I was also going, you know what, he's not going to answer this.
But they go in asking that question knowing the response is going to be vague.
He's going to be about as forthcoming as Jeter was in his days.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely. But this is where I thought Brady played it very close to the chest, and obviously he's saying retirement's out of the question. And he's not going to go out like this. Yeah, what are you going to say about this? Whether he's back in a Patriots uniform, do you think yes or do you think no? Starting with Coach.
I find it hard to believe that any other situation would be at this age something that he wants to walk into. I mean, you got to think that he's been playing for the same system now for 20 years, and it's not like a baseball player leaving one organization to another. Like, their rules might be different, and
they might do some different defensive alignments.
But I mean, at the end of the day, a ball gets hit to you, you're throwing it to first. But this is a whole new language. You got to learn new players, new situations, new down information. So it's like there's so much for him to have to take in that he would want to do that, and it's a little different than when Peyton did it, because when Peyton did it, he kind of walked into a situation in Denver where they were like begging for that to happen.
It's a different scenario.
It's a different scenario because he would be a free agent and he would be walking into those doors. So I don't know. I don't see him leaving. I don't see how he could.
He's not going anywhere. Yeah. Robert Kraft considers him a fifth son to him. He speaks the world of him. He loves everything about him. And it's like everything you said, Coach. Brady's been in the league for 20 years now. There's no way he's going to go to another team and have to learn a whole new playbook, whole new system, build all new relationship with receivers and linemen and coordinators. It's just not going to happen. He's going to stick with them.
My one thing, though, is, and what could hold up anything, it's not going to be years of the contract. It's going to be dollars.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, Belichick don't give a shit. Mm-hmm. And he will, he's traded Chandler Jones. He has traded, other guys that have held on, dear to, and he don't care. And if Tom, if they can't come to some sort of agreement, monetarily, then that's when it's going to be an issue.
I think what really is going to be the focal point is, will Brady leave the organization high and dry? And what I mean by this is there is no heir apparent to the Patriots throne. Brian Hoyer? Not so much.
He's not even there anymore.
Right. I was going to say, I couldn't even name you who their backup is.
Some rookie they drafted this past year. I forget who it is.
Right. Who's taken how many snaps?
I'll say his first pass in the NFL, if I remember right, was a pick six.
It was, to the Jets.
Yeah.
So that being said, Brady would not leave Kraft hanging.
Jared Stidham is their second-string quarterback. Ooh, fun fact, third-string quarterback is Cody Kessler.
That Cody Kessler.
Uh-huh.
Hey!
So that being said, Brady I don't think is leaving, and I don't think he should go out on this note, too.
No, he's not going anywhere. I will say this, though. Get some wide receivers. My God.
Hey, I got a name for you. Odell Beckham Jr.
No.
No, yes. No, yes. You should be saying yes, because Belichick, he will walk in that locker room. I cannot stress this enough. The man needs an authoritative figure, and that is what Bill Belichick is. He would walk in that room, and Belichick would look him in the eye, and he would say, quit the shit and grow up. And Odell Beckham would say, yes, sir. And away you would go. Super Bowl, here you come. Wherever it is next year, you'd be walking into that place just flowers.
They need somebody on receiver, though, because Julian Edelman will still be there. N'Keal Harry, yeah, I'd still consider him a rookie. Next year, he
had injury issues.
He only played half a season. Ben Watson, like I said, it hasn't announced his retirements, but from some of the stuff he's been posting on social media, it sounds like he's going to retire again.
Yeah, I think
you've got Mohamed Sanu Sr. is still there. He's got 1 year left on his deal, but he was spotty at best. I get he was injured, but spotty at best. Philip Dorsett, same there, and you need something.
My biggest fear is they're going to make a trade with Cincinnati for A.J. Green.
Ooh, okay.
I'll take that.
They got picks.
That's also a good idea too.
I'll take that.
They got picks to move. I fear that as a Bills fan.
I think though that it would have to be AJ Green going to Cincinnati saying, "Get me the hell out of here." That would take that to move.
Well, you know what I think with the current regime in Cincinnati, I think they're looking to rebuild and dump everybody, which I know sounds crazy.
I don't know if they. I don't think they could. Just like how Atlanta. New England called about Julio.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, you can settle for Sanu.
Yeah.
So I think that, so you see that number one wide receivers outside of Oakland who just, will trade anything for anything.
Yeah.
You give us a bucket of balls and you can take, our number one right. They would probably trade Josh Jacobs if you said, here's a bucket of balls and $1 million.
Pay for the money for our soda machine.
Yeah. So, I don't think that if you called and you said Cincinnati, hey, what would it take to pry A.J. Green off your hands? If A.J. Green's like, I'm not looking to move, I don't think that Cincinnati would move him. But if he came to Cincinnati and said, I want out the door.
Funny you mentioned A.J. Green. They don't have to trade him. He's an unrestricted free agent in 2020.
Well, I think
shit.
I think I know who's winding up in Foxborough, as much as I hate to say it. Why do I have to be right?
Pay big money. If I'm Tom, I'm saying you could pay me $1 million. Pay him $27 million.
Other notable names that are free agents in the wide receiver pool: Larry Fitzgerald, Emmanuel Sanders, Amari Cooper, Randall Cobb, Danny Amendola.
Amari Cooper is going to stay. There's no way that they bring in Mike McCarthy that they're not going to pay him.
Yeah, I was going to say Cooper's staying put.
Yeah.
Dak might be the only one who will be suffering on his contract for that one.
But no, A.J. Green being a free agent.
Yeah, that's why I said I thought he might be, but I thought he had one more year, but they have to move. So that being said,
why would you sit him out all year?
Because
Cincinnati's dumb.
Cincinnati is not the brightest bulb in the box.
Man.
Just saying about that. But we just gave a recap of the whole AFC. Let's take a quick break and digest that a little bit and then come back and talk some NFC wildcard weekend action. Hit us up on our social media accounts and always use the hashtag ODPH to join in the conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve.
And I'm Izzy.
And this is Everything I Learned from Movies. And tonight, like every night, we bring you questionable movies and pass the lessons that we've learned on to you, as well as we go over some great beer and funny third thing.
Yes, we're excellent beer reviewers, and as BJCP certified beer judges, we sort of know what we're talking about in regards to that. The movies?
So if you want to hear us talk about odd movies and Izzy talking about BJing,
Woo!
Listen to us at eilfm.podbean.com. That's everything I learned from movies.podbean.com.
Hey, honey, are you ready to pop that top? Woo! My top!
This is Rich, the host of the Three Fat Nerds podcast and co-host of the Horror Zone 607 podcast, and you are listening to our hashtag 607 podcast brothers, the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Now kick it back over to Ken Moneybags and the crew.
Coming back for the second segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Last segment, we talked AFC wildcard weekend action. Now let's talk some NFC games. Kicking off with the upset of the weekend in my eyes. I don't know about everybody else. I thought this one definitely was the head scratcher, jaw dropper. Shout out to Sound Guy Galore JR, because all he's been texting every day since the game is skull, skull, skull. Pad, you got the score?
Yeah, so the Minnesota Vikings defeated the New Orleans Saints 26-20. Kirk Cousins, 19 of 31 for 242 yards, one touchdown, no interceptions. Drew Brees, 26 of 33 for 208 yards, one touchdown, one interception. And I should note, you like that?
You like that, Coach Duffy?
No, I don't. I was very disappointed. I mean, New Orleans was my Super Bowl pick. I thought they were going to come back with vengeance from last year, and then they have, make the playoffs in a very tough NFC, playoff race. Have a home game against Minnesota. Kirk Cousins on the road against a team with a winning record. You have everything right in front of you, and you put up that performance that you did at home. Highly disappointed. Drew Brees played poorly. Obviously he's a pending free agent right now. New Orleans has got some interesting contract things to do there. Alvin Kamara, I don't know what in the world is going on with him because his season was suspect at best. 7
carries for 21 yards in this game.
I mean, I understand that Minnesota's running defense is very, very good, but all year we have not talked about him at all.
171 attempts all year for 797 yards.
Now, I know that he's been hurt through a little bit of the season, but, I mean, this was a shell of the performance that you got last year. You got Michael Thomas. So you really have no excuses to put up a performance that you did. And then you came out and you play like this and you play flat. And Minnesota, all the credit in the world for you. You came out and you won this game. Period.
Saints, if I saw the stat right, last 6 playoff eliminations are all by single digits. And let me pose this question. Maybe this isn't a case of the refs are screwing the Saints, because I know that was the talk in certain portions of the internet after this game was all said and done with. Maybe it's not the case that the refs are screwing the Saints, but maybe the Saints just suck in the playoffs.
Maybe the Saints are screwing the Saints.
That could be.
That's the only thing I could think about with this game, because on paper, the Saints should have rolled right through Minnesota. Saints home, 13-win season.
That's what I'm saying. 7.5-point favorites.
Yeah, this was a no-brainer.
It was everything. Literally, everything was lined up, from the stars to the moon to the sun to the planets. Everything was lined up for New Orleans to win this game.
And they just disappeared this game. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's the jitters of playoffs and you still are feeling the effects of last season. I don't know. I can't wrap my head around this because, like Coach said, this is also my Super Bowl pick to win. I figured that Sean Payton would go Belichick 2.0 and have Breeze dropping 53 on teams. And obviously, he was out for a good chunk of the season.
But they still won.
Teddy Bridgewater was an adequate replacement for him. So going into this game, to let Kirk Cousins go for 242 in your house, Delvin Cook, you held under 100 yards. and yet you still found a way to lose.
I mean, Diggs didn't get a catch until the fourth quarter.
No. And the fact that, I'm sorry, you didn't get a catch to the fourth quarter. You had 2 receptions for 8 yards. You cannot go do your dance in front of Sean Payton at the end of the game.
Well, he did. I mean, the different camera angles show it a different way. I mean, he was talking to a teammate and did the dance, and then he stopped and he shook the hand. I mean, it looked bad.
It looked bad from the one
because I was ready to cut a promo too. I was like, oh my god. But then when I saw the different angle and you watch it play out, you're like, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I'll retract my rant I was about to go on. But for this, you have to be happy if you're a Vikings fan. Kirk Cousins finally got the stigma off that he couldn't win a playoff game. And
you know what this kind of feels like, and this might be a crazy comparison, that 94 49ers team.
I'll
With
give you that.
Steve Young not able to win playoff games, all of a sudden, he wins. Then he can't beat Green Bay, beats Green Bay. Then he definitely can't beat Dallas. They beat Dallas. Then they go to the Super Bowl. Oh, he can't win the big one. San Diego's offense at that time was the number 1 offense in the league. Crazy good, scoring points. Then he comes in, and their defense was very good too. They end up winning that game, the monkey off the back.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it could be. It feels very comparable.
Well, I think for Kirk Cousins, this has been the ghost has haunted him throughout his career.
Well, yeah, I mean, the
especially-
numbers show it in itself.
The numbers show it, and his contract shows it.
Wow, let alone.
You get guaranteed $90 million. Let us not forget, $90 million you're guaranteed you need to produce in the postseason. He finally did. And this season, I don't know whether it's the apology tour. I don't know if he's going to trademark "you like that" and just run with it and use it as his mantra. I don't know. I don't understand. He is one of the most puzzling players in the field.
I mean, you cannot figure this man out.
No. He shows flashes of brilliance and then just fumbles away any confidence you have in other games.
I mean, Eli can get me frustrated as shit, but I know what his performance is going to be.
Yeah.
Like Kirk Cousins, you literally show up on a Sunday 1 o'clock game and you're like, here we go. And then all of a sudden he puts up the greatest game. And then you're like, all right, then it's a Sunday night at 8:05 and you're like, this is going to be the game that they turn around. There's no way they can lose this game. And then he goes 3 of 37 with 4 interceptions. And you're like, there's Kirk Cousins back again.
Yeah.
But especially for him to go to a hostile environment like New Orleans, and obviously with everything that happened last year in the playoffs too, you knew that fan base was rabid and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
The Saints should have been feeding off that, and let alone who showed up. I like watching this.
Let's
team.
say Thomas had a decent game, 7 catches for 70 yards, no touchdowns. Cook had an okay game, 5 catches for 54 yards. But outside that, it's really nothing to really write home about. And this is the kind of thing I can't help but sit here and wonder, what do they got to do? You're talking about an offense that in terms of total yards was 9th in the NFL with just shy, basically a sneeze shy of 6,000 yards of total offense. And on the flip side, on defense for yards allowed, we're about middle of the pack, allowing 55,329 yards. It puts them in the realm of, Los Angeles Rams, Denver, Philly, Dallas. They're middle of the pack. But yet they sit here and they kind of essentially lay a goose egg.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect way to describe it, Pat. They laid a goose egg. And just to show up, let me rephrase it, to not show up on the biggest day of your season thus far.
Right, with all the, like you said, all the animosity, all the rabidness in the fans with the petitions and the boycotts and the this and the that, to have the team show up and just
kind of go through the motions. And they're lucky Minnesota didn't put more points on them. That's a more telling story, I thought, is for how bad the Saints played. The Vikings didn't take full advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
And let alone it was closer than the score leads on, too. I mean, I know the overtime, and you can say what you want about Kyle Rudolph and pass interference. Listen, there's contact at the line.
Mm-hmm.
That's even the referee will swallow the whistle every time. I don't struggle with that.
I mean, not only was there contact at the line, but they were bumping the entire way into the end zone. The only thing that made me frustrated by that play was the fact that he does extend his arms to push him away, which should be a red flag. I mean, my biggest thing is that this pass interference reviewable stuff is stupid if it's not going to be over. I mean, if it's not going to be overturned, then what is the point of making it reviewable?
So you stop having fans complain.
But I mean, it's only making us complain
Yeah,
more
I
because
agree.
now
No.
it's reviewable. I mean, this is like WWE book. Like
Yeah.
this is Vince McMahon thinking. I like it, so I'm going to book it. I know you're going to complain, and I don't care. Like the fan base and people that and talk about this every day. You know, it's like, all right, you know, we need to make this reviewable. But by letter of definition, I mean, there's been so many plays that have been pass interference, and when you see a wide receiver fully extend his arms to get separation from a defender, it's like that needs to be flagged. There is no excuse for it. Whether it was, well, they were bumping into the end zone, and then all of a sudden he extended arms. No. The point of the penalty, then it should have been replayed down at worst. The point of the penalty is if the offensive player creates contact, then the defensive player is allowed to have his space. But if the defender is getting pushed out of the play, then there's no way that the defender can make a play. And then that doesn't make that, not only does it not make the sport fair, but then it makes it undefendable.
Yeah.
It seems like the rule should just be pretty cut and dry. That okay,
One would hope.
was the defender facing the ball? If yes, then okay, it's not pass interference. Was he facing the ball? No, then it's pass interference. But I think the issue with it is that is the case. Where if you look at it, okay, they look at our defender was facing the receiver, got in the way, pass interference. Cool. But I think the issue you run into this rule is, you know, all the addendums afterwards. Well, because of X, it's not. Because of Y, it's not. Or because of Z, it is. Because of 1, it might be. I feel like there's just too many add-ons. That, like, you get a law passed in your state government, whatever government, but then there's all these addendums added on afterwards,
right,
to kind of further branch off of it. You almost got to simplify and just go, this is it, bare bones.
Well, it is, though, a little bit, because, I mean, when it's an egregious, obvious call, it needs to be called. And if it's not called and it's reviewed, then it needs to be, that play is overturned.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of it. And the fact that, I mean, so many were not overturned that were clearly and obvious, I think is more embarrassing than the fact that referees are too, you know, prideful to admit that they were wrong.
And I think they're worried about the backlash. That's the problem. That's the problem when you have refereeing not called down the middle. I understand about last year, and everybody was screaming murder about, okay, the pass interference that wasn't called. All right, then it's a different season. You can't go back in a time machine and fix things. So guess what? If you're going to ref, you got to call down the middle. Do your job. Well, and if you're worried about the fan base being on you and then all that nonsense, then don't ref.
But here's my thing, though, to that, though. If I'm a coach and I see it, why would you challenge it?
Yeah.
Just eat it. You know, like, literally, I mean, I think there was a Giants game where it was like the opening possession and there was a questionable pass interference call, and Schumer reviewed it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why? Literally, not only have you lost almost every challenge, but this challenge, in specifically that you are challenging, has only been overturned one time all year?
Yeah.
Why would you do it the opening possession of a game?
It's puzzling to think, and I think it just goes back to show about how flat this game was and just how lost the Saints were.
Right, because, I mean, at the end of the day, it shouldn't have even been a thing.
Yeah.
The Saints should have steamrolled this team.
Yeah, they should have steamrolled them. So the fact that, I mean, we're focusing on that pass interference, no call, I think just goes to show about the underlying factor, which was the Saints went through the motions because they thought they were going to steamroll the Vikings, and guess what? The Vikings came into their house and punched them right in the mouth.
Yeah, because I think the Saints kind of might have relied on the mystique that is the Superdome a little bit. Like, oh, it's the Superdome. It's going to be loud. It's going to, you're going to be able to barely hear yourself. Well, guess what? In certain instances up in Minnesota, that's the same case.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Might not be as loud, if you measure it by decibels, but still loud.
No, but the fact that they scored a huge win on the road and knocked the Saints out, they have to be very happy with their performance.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins has to be ecstatic. Congratulations. You want a trip to San Francisco next week, so we'll see what happens there. And for the Saints, you have a very, very intriguing offseason where you have a quarterback situation you need to figure out and some other key players that have some contract issues. So good luck with that. Flipping this coin to the other game in the NFC, Seattle and Philadelphia. Pat, break it down.
So the Seattle Seahawks went into Philly. bend didn't break, and defeated the Philadelphia Eagles by the final score of 17-9. Russell Wilson, 18 of 30 for 325 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Josh McCown, 18 of 24 for 174 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Coach, let me ask you this. The Clowney hit on Wentz.
Eesh. It's not good.
Yeah.
I mean,
What can you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you watch it, and then you watch it on replay, and then you watch it on replay again, and you see that, he is – and I know that the rule of thumb is if a quarterback is diving head first, he technically isn't giving himself up on the play, so you have to stop the runner. Mm-hmm. So, you got to stop him. But, I mean, at the end of the day, he's diving. You can go in with your hands first.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally dove in like Chris Benoit on a head, a top
diving
headbutt. And, I mean, you hit him right in the back of the head, and, you knock him out of the game. And that's unfortunate for Philadelphia because Wentz had been playing very, very well. And, I mean, Clowney there should have been some sort of penalty, fine or something. I mean, the fact that, the NFL is not doing anything on it or anything, I mean, I'm sure that there will probably be some sort of rule that comes out this offseason that if a quarterback is heading to the ground, that now they're giving themselves up. I got to imagine that will be the case because this type of play, I mean, even for a running back, I mean, this type of play is not only, scary, but it's dangerous at the same time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, it's definitely not a good look, and I definitely feel for Wentz. I mean, this was his first playoff game, that he started in and was going to play in because, of course, 2018, he didn't play in any games. He was injured. But, at the same time, and I give all the credit in the world to Josh McCown for stepping in and literally leaving it all out on the field. If you haven't seen the video, look up the video where I forget what teammate he's hugging, but he's hugging one of his teammates on the field in absolute tears. That this is, I'll never find it, but this is something I found on Facebook or Reddit or something that like he handed the ball off to Emmitt Smith in like his final season or whatever it was, and then. And just the career that Josh McCown has had and everything he's been through and like he said in his post-game press conference that he and his family have moved around a lot. They've been on a lot of teams. He's very much a journeyman quarterback. I got to give him, even though Philly lost, I got to give him all the credit in the world for basically going in there dry, maybe having almost no first-team reps in the practice for this and almost pulling off this win.
Well, I think it goes to show that Philly lived and died by Wentz. They don't have Nick Foles this year.
That's the other interesting thing, that they got rid of Foles Carson Wentz is our guy. It almost makes you wonder, it might have cost him a little bit, but, and I know hindsight's 20/20, should they have held on to him?
Well, that was the ultimate question because when Foles wins you a Super Bowl, what do you...
I mean, it's almost your ace in the hole in case something happens with Wentz, because now we look at Wentz, okay, he had the concussion and he left the game. He had the injuries and whatnot. It's almost your ace in the hole.
But to handcuff him like that...
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the tough call.
He had played well, given the fact that and I know the season had been up and down, and I've given some hard time to Philadelphia fans who are like, "Oh, Carson Wentz is the worst quarterback ever." Blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, I understand your feeling because Nick Foles came in and won a Super Bowl and blah blah blah, but it's like he had played well without his best wide receivers. With a running game that was really suspect, and an offensive line that was always interchanging. And it's like this entire year he stayed healthy for you. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, this game he gets hit, in a what should have been, a kick out of the game type hit. I mean, this should have a hit that should never happen.
Right.
A cleaner I'm not to say Clowney's a dirty player, but a cleaner play, a cleaner hit would have left Carson Wentz in the game and been able to play. Philly probably would have been right back in the game. They would have continued being able to do what they were doing. But, you knock him out, and in comes, McCown, who is a journeyman, and credit to him because he played his heart out. And it's not that narrative of, what if we had held on to Foles or what if we had kept Foles and Wentz. It's not fair to the job that Wentz had done up until that point for a Philadelphia fan,
No, absolutely, and I think you have to tip your cap to Wentz and McNown because he did what he had to do the best to his ability.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot to ask a backup quarterback who hasn't played a lot this season. Granted, he has a lot of tread on his tires, but for a Seattle team that arguably could have been the number one seed in the NFC, had a couple different games play out separately.
Yeah.
That to go up against that, it was going to be a daunting task no matter what he did.
Well, I mean, either way, it was going to be, even for Seattle. I mean, coming on the road into Philly, that's not an easy place to play.
No, it never is.
You know, especially a West Coast team traveling east.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it wasn't a 1 o'clock start, you know, it's still difficult on the West Coast team to come out there. And all the credit in the world to them, they played well.
It was a 1 o'clock game out west.
No, they played. No,
Right? Hey.
They played well, and that's what you wanted to see. I mean, for Seattle, and I thought it was very classy of Russell Wilson immediately after the game. He was asking about Carson Wentz.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of dude
that's
that
how
he is.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I mean, class act, top to bottom. But for Wilson to come in there, throw for 325 and a touchdown.
But DK Metcalf, my God.
Yeah.
7 catches, 160 yards, 1 touchdown. Have a coming out party, why don't you?
Hey, he's going to do it. Now's the time. And obviously, they made a point to make a statement win, beating Philly, which we've talked about. Philly being the champs of the NFC East was nothing really to brag about. It's the worst division of all football. But Philly showed up for this game. It's unfortunate what happened to Carson Wentz.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, the injury bug had haunted Philly all season. So next year, hopefully they get back on track and everybody's back healthy. For Seattle, they move on to Green Bay, which is going to be a fun game, nevertheless.
Yeah. So the schedule, looking at the games coming this weekend, Saturday, your early game at 4:35 on NBC is Minnesota at San Francisco. Then you've got Tennessee at the Baltimore Ravens at 8:15 on CBS. Sunday, you've got the Houston Texans taking on the Kansas City Chiefs at 3:05 Eastern on CBS. And then you've got the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Green Bay Packers at 6:40 on Fox.
Great weekend of games this coming weekend. So definitely.
And I should note those later games are pending the earlier games get done on time. If they run long, then they'll get pushed back.
Right. So hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts about Wild Card Weekend and who you got for the upcoming games for the divisional round? We definitely want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sunny Hepburn.
And I'm Brandy Fleeks.
And this is Book of Lies, the podcast, where we discuss liars, cheats, and thieves,
Scammers and dirty rotten scoundrels.
So tune in for new episodes every Tuesday to hear about another low-down dirty liar.
And learn how to spot them.
So that's Book of Lies podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast player or on Twitter at Book of Lies Pod, on Instagram at Book of Lies Podcast, and on Facebook at Book of Lies Podcast.
And if you want to send us an email, send us one at bookofliespodcast@gmail.com.
Okay?
Bye-bye!
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Hot lips touching, cool thighs feeling, shawty running up, her spine spinning. Long day to a long night, but I'm not stopping till I get it right.
Welcome back to the ODPH podcast. Now, I should note, the next segment, the thoughts, views, and opinions of that of Coach Duffy do not reflect the entire ODPH panel. Listener discretion is advised because we are talking the NFL coaching carousel.
Get your popcorn.
And as we were coming in to the studio, the Giants made their move. They did not hire Coach Duffy, which is egregious.
Egregious.
And will haunt them. But no, this NSFW segment is going to be all Coach Duffy breaking down their hire.
I know a hot take is expected here, but I'm not going to lie. I'm still flabbergasted and shocked by all this that happened today. I mean, it was all whirlwind. I mean, it came from, Matt Rule, who was allegedly the Giants' number one option, going to Carolina with an interview last night that he was supposed to meet with the Giants this morning. the Giants called him last night to confirm, that he was still coming in, which allegedly, was said that he was still planning on meeting with the Giants, to signing with Carolina today for a wow of a deal.
7 years, $60 million.
Crazy for a guy who's never
Insane.
coached in the NFL, let alone the fact that, Baylor is a suspect college team at best.
What does he want in Baylor? All right.
It's crazy. If you want to get into this, when they were talking, people had posted things in some interviews that he had done, and I was like, wow, this seems like a really good leader of men for a college team, but does not seem like a man who's going to go in and demand respect in a college locker room or an NFL locker room, because he hasn't done anything. And so when he was the Giants' number one guy, I was like, all right, I hope not, and obviously Mike McCarthy had already signed in Dallas, so he was out, and then it led to a laundry list of guys that the Giants were looking to interview. From Baltimore's offensive and defensive coordinator to Josh McDaniels was supposed to come into an interview, to they were reaching out to the 49ers defensive coordinator. There was just a laundry list of names of guys that the Giants were looking to bring in to interview. To all of a sudden, today, and Joe Judge was on the list. That was another name that they had thrown out there.
Yeah.
To all of a sudden, the reports came out this morning that Jason Garrett was a last-ditch option for the Giants, to which we were texting today, and the Giants had requested permission to speak to Jason Garrett, which I was like, at first on the show, I'd said I would love Jason Garrett to be here. Obviously, playoff experience, winning teams, blah, 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 quarterback development. Maybe he would bring Kellen Moore with him, which I like that idea, because although they forget about the run when they're losing, I still like Kellen Moore as far as a play caller, because he's young and former quarterback. To then, what happened with him begging to keep his job in Dallas even after they hired McCarthy.
Yeah, so let's break this down. Obviously, the coaching carousel started with Ron Rivera going to Washington.
Sure, let's break it down even more. So Ron Rivera obviously gone to Washington way early in the process.
Way early.
Week 17... done, hired.
Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously names were circulating who was going where.
Yeah.
The Jason Garrett divorce.
That was messy.
Dallas was messy.
Ugly.
Still is messy.
All blazing.
He's still there.
He's still there technically. But with Garrett, as reports were coming out that was trying to mend fences and do anything to stay on board, it just came off as such a weird and bad look.
And that's why I, was like, all right, this guy is, there's something very off putting here.
Yeah.
And then the reports of, Jerry Jones wanting to hold on to him and retain him in some sort of position, maybe not as a head coach, but in the front office in some way, just weird, giving me bad vibes to the point where I was like, you know what?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you hear stuff like that, I'm sorry, Pat.
No, Jerry absolutely had ulterior motives with this, not only from those reports, but the fact that they decided to announce that they were moving on from Jason Garrett in the middle of the Philly game.
Right.
Yeah.
But
that's typical.
It's a Jerry Jones move.
Let me go steal the spotlight.
Yeah.
But obviously when they said, okay, we're moving on from Jason Garrett, and with Garrett, and the rumors were circulating, then there was some news reports saying that he was trying to beg Jerry for his job as it was coming out, allegedly. Just the whole fact that the divorce wasn't cut and dry and dragging, and this is not a good look for anybody that wanted to hire Garrett, and this wasn't a good look for the Cowboys.
Right. No.
Because with all the names,
they care.
Well, no, but still, if you're a Cowboys fan, you got to be frustrated about, okay, wait, you're not getting rid of him? What is going on? You need to cut ties and get going if you're going to move on from him. And otherwise, you retain him and then you go from there. But you didn't, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, you sign Mike McCarthy, who is the biggest free agent coach in the game.
Yeah.
To a multi-year deal for Dallas.
5 years, I think.
Yes, which caused a domino effect because Matt Rule, who came out of nowhere for Baylor, is signed to a $62 million 7-year deal with the Panthers, who have got a lot of questions other than Christian McCaffrey on that team. So when the Giants had to come up, okay, the Garrett thing, as we heard, they requested permission, they were granted, then they weren't, and then all of a sudden we hear they made a coaching hire.
Well, that great recap. It was just all today. It was the weirdest thing. I mean, we get the text about Garrett. Then, I'm texting Pad. I'm hoping McDaniel still comes. His interview was scheduled for tomorrow. To all of a sudden, you texted me and saying that Joe Judge, the special teams / wide receivers coach, had been hired.
Yeah, from the Patriots.
Well, and that was the thing. I was at the gym working out, and I was flipping through Twitter, and Ian Rappaport had said that Joe Judge was getting hired by the Giants, and I'm like, wait, who is this guy, and for what? Because he was like, oh, he's a Patriots wide receiver special teams coordinator. I'm like, all right, for what position in the Giants? And then I did some further digging, and that's when I saw from Schefter that he's getting hired for the head coaching job, and I'm like, what?
And now this is where I'm trying to spin this in my head. Like, I'm trying to digest the fact, because this is the thing, and a lot of things that I had read about, from people saying, like, you don't know what you're getting when you get a head coach.
Right.
Like when Schumer came in last year, I was like, Schumer's coming in as a lame duck. Like, he's just not anything that anybody wants to have. So I was like, all right, Schumer is here, whatever. But like with this hire right now, I'm like, I don't know what to feel. I can't process this because there's no track record there. There's no, he wasn't a coordinator. He was a special teams coach. And it's like, I don't know how to feel. I can't digest this.
Well, so I pulled up the Wikipedia pages for both Matt Rule and Joe Judge. Interesting fact, since the Giants, I mentioned this to you, Coach, off air, Joe Judge, born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Matt Rule, born in New York, New York. So they opted for the Philly guy over the New Yorker, interestingly enough. 44 years old, has coaching experience from Albright, which is a private liberal arts college in Reading, Pennsylvania. Was a defensive, had coaching experience, and I won't list all the positions and whatnot, but just coaching experience from University of Buffalo, UCLA, Western Carolina for a few years, Temple for a few years, was assistant offensive line coach for the New York Giants in 2012, head coach at Temple from 2013 to 2016, Baylor head coach from 2017 to 2019, where I should note some of his career highlights and awards. He was a Big 12 Coach of the Year in 2019 and the AP Big 12 Coach of the Year in 2019. On the flip side, you've got Joe Judge, who was a grad assistant in Mississippi State from 05 to 07, then also has coaching experience at Birmingham Southern, Alabama, the Patriots for 3 years, and is now with the New York Giants.
Well, the point that I was trying to make before was, like with McCarthy, you don't know that this is going to be a reborn, new coach type Mike McCarthy. It still might be the same issues that he had with Aaron Rodgers. Not everybody can leave a team and then kind of have a resurgence. Bill Belichick leaving Cleveland, going to the Patriots. And
well, let's not forget the Jets for a day.
Right, and
Cleveland.
And Cleveland, yeah. Well, the bad performance in Cleveland. And then, obviously Schumer was a coach in Cleveland before and had a losing record, then comes to the Giants and has the same losing record. So it's like Andy Reid, left Philly and everybody thought he was done when he went to Kansas City. He's come back now and he's completely changed his coaching style. So it's like you don't know what kind of coach you're going to get. So when they were talking about bringing McCarthy, I was like, well, I'm not sure about that. Now, what I'm trying to spin in my head here and digest is the fact that he had worked with Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. Nick Saban had personally recommended him to Bill Belichick. Okay, so that's already a good feeling because I hope that Nick Saban is stingy with his recommendations because some people will just throw them out willy-nilly, and don't realize that your name is associated to that recommendation that you give, so that is your reputation. So I was like, all right, so that good feeling there. Then to find out today that the Giants called Bill Belichick, not about the head coaching vacancy, but to call and ask them about this young man, which, I mean, he's older than me, but he's 38. He's in coaching world, he's young. So they asked Bill Belichick, and Belichick gave his personal recommendation. And I feel like if Saban is willing to give his and Belichick is willing to give that, then that is something to hold on to and at least have a little bit of hope with. Because another report that came out today, Belichick met with him on a weekly basis to learn and develop how to build a program. So these are things that like you have to hear as a Giants fan and just be like, maybe there's hope.
Maybe there's hope, but to this I would also say, and I'm not meaning this to knock it down, I'm just kind of like, just keep in mind, Eric Mangini, Romeo Crennel, Charlie Weiss,
Don't fucking bring that name up to me ever again.
Charlie
Don't
White.
you fucking... I will jump over this table and strangle you with a microphone.
Bill O'Brien,
Those names are fine.
The list goes on and on of former Belichick
Sure.
coaches that have moved on and had mixed, although albeit skewing bad success. Is there hope? Yes, because from all the reports we've heard, he's a very detail-oriented guy that, when reporters would go to Patriots practice and he'd be one of the loudest ones on the field, that, he's a very much a no-nonsense guy. But that's all fine and dandy on the practice field and in a position that isn't as high stress as being a head coach can be, where, okay, he's special teams and wide receivers coach. That is a very limited scope of things he has to worry about. He now has to worry about that on top of all of the defense, all of the offense,
Sure.
and everything else.
Well, also something that I wanted to talk about too is, this is definitely, it was a panic move. Like, I'm not going to deny that. It was full blown.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and this came out, Jordan Rannon, who covers the Giants, wrote this the other day, or Jay Glazer reported this. Head coaches don't want to take this job because Gettleman is a just sitting duck. He is literally just there on an open pond with about 1 million, hunters gathered around the pond ready to pull the trigger and get this duck, caught. Because obviously they retained him this year with the, Mara saying this team needs to be turned around. And, if it's not, then Gettleman's gone. So the fact that you bring in a young coach, that next year if you get a new general manager, it won't be the, that friction like there would be had you had Mike McCarthy,
right?
And then you fire Gettleman, and now you bring in another general manager to work with Mike McCarthy. That would create fiction. Or it would give that guy too much because maybe McCarthy tries to make the play of, hey, you fire Gettleman, let me bring in my guy. Let me bring in somebody. I know a guy who could be a general manager. So now you got a yes man in the general manager position that's just going to be feeding the coach, which doesn't work in an organization unless it's New England.
Right.
So, so Gettleman being there is a problem. Now, I think that, and Pro Football Talk had wrote a story about this today that, special teams coaches a few years ago were a hot commodity. Mm-hmm. They were the guys that everybody was after because they sit in both the offensive and defensive meetings. They work with both offense and defensive players, and they have to know. Special teams is 1/3 of the game. And you think about a lot of great coaches that were special teams coaches that have become great head coaches. John Harbaugh comes to mind. Bill Belichick was a special teams coach under the Giants for a few years before he became defensive coordinator, ultimately now in New England. Tom Coughlin was a special teams coach till when he became the Giants head coach and led them to Super Bowls. So, guys who coach special teams, I don't know what it is that inevitably leads them to great success, but it's there. And I'm trying to hold on to that thread too. So there's a couple things that I'm grasping here that I'm just like, oh, he's a great special teams coach. All right, let's grasp that thread and let's hold on to that. Or, he has a recommendation from Saban. All right, great. I'll hold on to that one too. It's so much because it literally happened so fast that I'm like, I'm trying to digest the fact that the Giants went out and got a head coach that nobody was asking for interviews for. Besides the Giants,
right? To
all of a sudden now, hired.
Right, and that's the interesting thing was, of course, we mentioned Matt Rule got hired by the Carolina Panthers. The report I'd read from Ian Rappaport from NFL Network was that he called the Giants after the Panthers made their offer and gave the Giants an opportunity to match that offer, and the Giants elected to pass. The only thing we heard out of Joe Judge was that, once he got hired by the Giants, was that he was considering going back to Mississippi State. Now, also other thing was that Mike Reese, who covers the Patriots for ESPN, was on the Michael Kay show down in New York earlier today as we record. And, Don LaGreca on the Michael Kay show asked him, did you ever see Joe Judge being an NFL head coach? And Reese said, yeah, I figured at some point, because he's covered the Patriots, for Lord knows how many years. He said, I figured at some point he'd be a head coach, but he said, I figured at this point in time is when he would have started getting interviews.
Right.
Might not have led anywhere, but he would have gotten his foot in the door and had a few conversations with some organizations.
Well, not only was this a panic move, but then this also, boils down to Gettleman being a lame duck. And the other person that I'm pointing blame at is Sean McAvey. That this all falls to that garbage with the next young hot coach you got to bring in to be your head coach. I mean, all right, I guess, but I don't, so those are the three things that I'm pointing as to why this hire happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, what I do from as far as, coaching position, I mean, you saw it with what they did with the Rams with bringing Wade Phillips to be the defensive coordinator. I think that you need to do the same thing here for Judge. I think you need to bring in a veteran head coach to be an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. And I know that whatever is going on with Jason Garrett, alleged or not, that they were looking to interview him, I don't necessarily know if that's the position that I would want to take. Mm-hmm. I would want to get maybe a guy who was a head coach prior, who obviously is clearly not going to work being a head coach, and this is the guy that you bring in to help Judge run this team and organization. A guy that comes to, Wade Phillips just got fired. I don't want him as a Giants coach at all, but a guy that comes to mind that you name, Pat, would be a Romeo Cornell type guy that you can bring in, was a head coach, clearly not successful, but can lead a defense like he does in Houston right now and help. And how he helps Bill O'Brien be able to game plan and lead that team is very prevalent, especially when the two-a-days 3 years ago, or the HBO show Hard Knocks, you saw how much Romeo Cornell played in that. So I think that's the route that they need to take, because he needs to have somebody in his corner that will be there for support in order for him to be successful, because the fact that at 38 to now go from a special teams coach, which again, you have to manage all assets of the game. I mean, offense, you're the manager of one spot. Special teams, you got kickoff, kick return, punt return, field goal, all that you have to set up for. So it's very meticulous and it is very detail oriented. And that's maybe why these guys are successful. It's just like, I don't know. I know like a hot take was needed here, but I'm at a loss. Like I sat at work and I'm just like, I'm reading all these message boards and it's just like, guys, give them a fucking break. Like, let's give them a game before we just write everything off here. I mean, everybody when they hired Schumer were like, look at how well Minnesota played and look how great their offense was. And then it was like, yeah, but do you forget his record in Cleveland and the track record there? Right. Yeah, but this is his second time being a head coach. Maybe the experience will help him out. It didn't. So what do you don't know what this guy is going to be.
No, you don't. And I mean, that's the one thing that you're going to have to just go based off the word of Bill Belichick, which hopefully he doesn't have any grudges for the Super Bowl and decide to send you a lame duck.
No, I mean, he has said in documentaries and many interviews. Yeah, I know. I can't take a joke right now, Ken.
I was going to say, what if he hires Charlie Weiss as his OC?
I will fucking murder you guys if you continue to throw that name. I swear to God,
No, so but get it back on track though with this. Is Judge has got a lot of stuff he's going to need to work through. And I mean, that's going to be the one area where he could be the next Sean McVay or he could be the next Eric Mangini. It just depends on how it plays out.
There's going to be growing pains. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's not like he's inheriting it's not the Green Bay LaFleur. It's not that situation.
Yeah.
He's not walking into the door for a team that finished 10-6 the year before. That quarterback couldn't agree with his previous head coach, so they can the head coach because they can't fire Aaron Rodgers. It's not that situation.
Right.
This is a 4-12 team with many different holes, from offensive line to defensive line to the secondary to wide receivers to potentially quarterback. So, like, there's a laundry list of issues that this is going to have to work through. So, I'm not expecting the Giants to go 10-6 next year.
Right. And this is why I would say to any Giants fans and even Coach Duffy listening, give the man a chance. I realize the New York media and the New York fan base can be a little rabid and a little short-fused at times when it comes to coaches and how they do and wanting to get rid of them. As the saying goes, the trigger is very quick in New York when it comes to head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Give the man his time because, like Coach said, there is a lot of issues that need fixing in New York. It's like the old saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't expect this man to come in January of 2020 and sit here 12 months from now and go, hey, Giants are making the playoffs and they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Like, maybe they make the playoffs. We'll see. Time will tell.
Time has got to tell, and then you have to give him time to develop. The only thing is the New York media will be on him, so he's going to have to balance that out. But working under Belichick, you're used to being in pressure situations.
They have salary cap, and they have good draft position all in their favor this year. That if Gettleman does not go up and screw this up, because that is who I'm more concerned about than I am Judge. If they can go out and they can land some free agents and get some draft picks that pan out this year, they can be okay. I mean, I don't know, maybe if they get 5 wins, maybe 6, that's definitely a win. If they finish 4-12 again next year, I don't consider that a loss.
I'll say this, Giants fans, if Joe Judge answers questions at a press conference like Bill Belichick does,
give it to me.
Your press conferences will be must-watch TV.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm on
to Washington.
Yeah,
we're on to Philly.
I'm serious. If they go 4-12 next year, I'm okay with it. Like, that will be a win to me. If they finish 3-12, 2-12, or 3-13, or 2-14, and Daniel Jones regresses, or Saquon Barkley regresses, then now we should be talking some concern.
As long as he doesn't come out there with any bulletin board material T-shirts to press conferences.
I don't think he's gonna. I mean, from the sounds of it, from what people are talking about how his interview was with the Giants, he doesn't sound like that kind of guy.
No, he definitely doesn't.
And I just want to know, the coach that shall not be named, currently not doing anything.
Goddamn right he's not.
Just
and
saying.
He shouldn't be either, Pad.
Just saying, last coaching experience or last coaching
job.
job.
Still getting paid from Notre Dame, so fuck it. What do you need to work for?
Last coaching job, 2012 to 2014, Kansas.
Should we just call him Voldemort?
Sure.
Okay, so that works for Voldemort. To wrap up this segment, though, one team still looking for a head coach is Cleveland.
Now, here's a soapbox for you.
How
stupid is that organization?
How
dumb?
Did I read the report right that they were going to interview Dabo?
Yeah,
the Bills OC, and I just laughed.
How do you not learn? This is the team that should have gone out and tried to get McCarthy. This is the team that should have gone out and gotten a head coach with previous head coaching experience in the NFL, because the track record is there for you going out and getting offensive coordinators that have never been a head coach before and performing the way that Kitchens did. You are the worst ran organization. I feel terrible for your fan base. I feel terrible for your players. I feel terrible for the people that work at the stadium. You suck.
Here's the thing, though. I think you gotta.
I was all pent up.
You gotta get a new owner.
I gotta let you go, man.
Because as the line goes, and you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. I think a lot of people don't want to touch that job with a 39.5-foot pole. Because look at the news that came out late last week that John Dorsey got fired from the job because he got into an argument with the owner. Would you, as a prospect head coach, who your agent calls you and goes, "Hey, I got a potential interview lined up with the Cleveland Browns. If it's me, I'm going, cancel it. I don't want to go there."
Well, I think you got to look at it from two different perspectives. One, whatever happened between Haslam and Dorsey, we don't know. And obviously, with the expectations being as high as they were this season, to fall apart as badly as they did, and the drama with firing Kitchens, you knew that something had to give. And whatever transpired in that argument that led to Dorsey leaving, we don't know. We're never going to know.
Right.
That being said, Haslam has said he's taking his time. They're going to hire a coach before a GM. I think that's a bad look, in my opinion.
It's always stupid.
It is, unless you were planning on making that coach the GM, which I thought they were going to, in my humble opinion, I thought they should have tried doing with McCarthy. If you want somebody that's going to have that much control of your organization, give it to somebody that knows about building a team.
Right. That
being said, going through the pick of the litter with OCs, and they're looking at Dabble, they're looking at the Ravens OC, Greg Roman. They're also, according to NFL.com, they're looking at Jim Schwartz from the Eagles, and they're obviously McDaniels from the Patriots, who's going to be the top. He's going to be the top name, but he's Belichick's successor. He's not going anywhere. When Belichick decides to finally turn the keys over to him, he's going to drive that car wherever it's going to go.
McDaniels was Indianapolis Colts head coach for all of a cup of water.
Yeah.
And turned that down, which Indianapolis at that time was in a far better position personnel-wise in terms of on-the-field personnel than Cleveland is right now.
Yeah, see, I think if Cleveland was going to do anything smart, they should talk to Jason Garrett. And that would be the essential move for them to make. But they're not going to do that.
I mean, Schwartz was a head coach in Detroit, so I mean that's not. I mean, obviously not great success there, but it's not a bad, idea to go after. Yeah, I agree though. You have to go out and you got to get a guy that has some sort of previous head coaching experience because the inmates run the asylum there.
Exactly.
And if you go out and you get a guy who's over his head, not to say that Greg Roman would, because, I mean, obviously Baltimore's had a ton of success offensively, but if you go out and you get a McAdoo or you go out and get a Schumer-type guy that has no business being a head coach, the players are going to walk all over this guy, and they're going to smell blood in the water, and they're going to take things over again.
Yeah, they need a very strong presence in that locker room if they're going to be anywhere near being successful. Say what you will about Garrett, but Garrett never had these issues in Dallas with his team, and they've had their fair share of egos.
I think the guy writing the paychecks, though, kind of helped there.
Well, still, but I think that also that heals something, but so does winning. And winning does cover a lot of question marks that you have, unless you're Des Bryant, which is a whole other can of wax. That being said, the Browns are going to be the ones to watch now since the coaching carousel has been settled for the most part. So hit us up on hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts about the NFL coaching carousel? Who do you think has hit a home run and who do you think is struck out of the plate? I know I'm talking different sports, but I'm trying to calm Coach Duffy down because I don't want to say Voldemort's name and get him wound up again.
I swear on my life, if we ever bring up his name for no good reason, I will lose my mind.
Which, if you hit him up on Coach Duffy 11 on Twitter, I am not held responsible for what happens. I am just going to sign off on that. But definitely hit us up on our social media accounts because we definitely want to continue that conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Wondersoul. Hey, I'm Lucas, the host of Wonder Soul, a weekly podcast series featuring a variety of topics dealing with life's many passions and experiences. Join me and friends each week as I discuss topics ranging from pop culture to real-life conversations that all can find relatable. New episodes bring new guests and new topics and release every Friday. More content can be found on Wonder Soul's YouTube and Twitch channels. Stay up to date and connect with Wonder Soul through social media by following us on Twitter and Instagram, and we hope that you enjoy Wonder Soul wherever you listen to podcasts. So do good and take care.
2, 3, 4.
Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, Pad Local Minute Time.
Well, Local Minute, of course, we're talking Binghamton Devils news. Looking at their games from last week, they had two games going on. They had a game on New Year's Eve against the Syracuse Crunch, where they won by the final score of 5-3. And then they had a game on Friday, January 3rd, against the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, where they won again by the final score of 3-1. Looking at their games ahead for this coming week, they've got a game this Wednesday where they travel up to Rochester to play the Americans. Game time 7:05. Friday, they return home on January 10th for a 7:05 game against the Cleveland Monsters. And then they've got a Sunday afternoon game on January 12th, taking place against the Syracuse Crunch. Game time 3:05.
Yeah, great. That's all well and fun. Let's get to the main event.
So let's just finish it up, BinghamtonDevils.com.
Blah, 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 blah. All right, Binghamton Bulldog time. The real main event. Obviously, a 131-100 victory Saturday night on their first road game against the Spa City blah, blah, blahs. This Saturday, though, the creme de la creme, the main event, the 15-round boxing match that we got coming into Binghamton, St. Patrick's Gym, 7:05 start, the Syracuse Stallions, baby.
This is the game we've been hyping up for the longest time.
It's been the countdown to Cuse coming to Binghamton all year long. This has been the only game that we've been worried about, and it's here.
So do we want to give a little backstory? A lot of trash talk has been happening since last season where the Bulldogs ended Syracuse's undefeated run. Not their run to the playoffs, but their undefeated streak. in a very highly contested game. Former players of the Bulldogs are now playing on Syracuse. There's been a lot of trash talk on social media.
A lot of innuendo. Does this imply to somebody? Does this mean anything? Could I interpret it that way? A lot of that going on.
That being said, this Saturday night, Coach, myself, and Nostradogmus are going to be in attendance.
Oh, good.
We
got some backup.
The dog, yeah.
We got some muscle.
The dog bought his ticket last night. He's one of the last people.
Because they are sold out, everybody.
Yes, they are sold out. There's a very lengthy message on their Facebook page about it.
They're not playing.
They are not messing around with this, to put it mildly. This is the game if you are locally in the 607. This is the barbershop talk. This is like wherever you're talking basketball. No matter where you go, the gym, anywhere downtown.
If you're talking basketball to anybody, it is this that you are talking about. It is the animosity between these two teams. It is the barbershop talk. It is the everything that they've been talking about and leading up to this game is going to play out on the court now.
Yeah, seriously. I still go down and shoot hoops down at the parks too. So I'm still talking to people down there doing it. And that's why everybody is talking about this game. This has so much credibility going on for who is the baddest guard in Binghamton.
I mean, if you want to be upfront about it, I mean, that's been the talk. There's been a lot of talk between two of the players on each team about who is the guard of the area. I mean, obviously Chris Cartwright has been a hell of a basketball player for the Bulldogs since his ascension into the leadership role that he's taken on. And Jimmy Gray obviously is a local homegrown hero. A walk-on at Binghamton who led the team in three-pointers his senior year. And, obviously whatever happened between the two in the organization, Jimmy moved on to the Syracuse Stallions. And now, here he comes back into Binghamton to play on home court.
Yep, the Bulldogs have added a couple players to add some height because they're going to need it.
They need it because then again, another shot that Syracuse, made across the Binghamton Bowel was in comes Kyrie Sutton, who helped lead Binghamton on that, miraculous run that they had in the first ABA playoff that they made 2 years ago. Now he's coming back to Binghamton on this Syracuse team that, again, when they came to Binghamton, they were big. And, I'm not talking just, a 6'4" center. I'm talking they were across the board at least 6'5" or plus from their two guard all the way up to their center.
Monstars.
That's a really good way of putting it. And, Binghamton plays quick and they play fast, but at the end of the day, when people want to play bully ball, you got to be able to bully back. And Binghamton, with the signings that they made with the former Kansas State player and the three-point ace from the Pennsylvania team, made some size, gained some size. And I'm really excited for this game. I hope that it stays on the court. My fear is that, as things can do and will do, get a little bit heated. There's a lot of passionate fans behind both organizations and both players in particular that, if this is my PSA as the dad here, I will say, please leave this on the court. Let's not have this extend outside of the court. Let's not do anything stupid. I know that, pride is a thing, but at the end of the day, let's check that at the door. This is only ABA basketball. You still can be friends at the end of the day. So let's just leave it on the court. Let's have a great game. Let's have something for us to talk about on Tuesday, and knock on wood that nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, this is going to be a highly contested game, so we're not trying to say there's going to be any danger going to the game.
I'm not trying to say that, but what I'm trying to say is if things do get heated, which they have before in a Bulldog game and they have before the Syracuse game, and things happen, let's just leave it on the court.
Yeah, it's going to be a highly emotional night, to put it mildly.
And I can't blame either guy because there is the storyline there, and whether it's created by them or created by friends, people are in people's ears. And you and I talk about privately, and I talk about it with other friends that are Bulldog season ticket holders about everything and the fallout that happened by it. So it's got to be on the forefront of both players' minds, and it's got to be on the forefront of both teams' minds.
This is going to be bragging rights, and this is going to be a highly emotional night. Like we say, there's no danger going to the game or watching the game. It's going to be a fun night of basketball. We're just hoping everybody keeps their emotions in check and keeps it on the court. This is like your heated rivals, like we said last week. Pat and I were talking. This is like Red Sox, Yankees to a much lesser degree. Ohio State and Michigan to a much lesser degree. Coach Duffy versus Baltimore to a much lesser degree.
I mean, it's Knicks Bulls.
Yeah.
It's Knicks Heat.
Yeah. So it's going to be a fun game to be in attendance for. If
Let's
you're
just
lucky
have
enough
this
to get
not be
tickets.
Piston Pacers.
Yes.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. If not, Pad's in the parking lot with a chair ready to swing.
Please.
Maybe.
No, Pad's like, nope, I'm going Richapalooza. I ain't got time for this.
Yeah. Smart man.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I tease.
we're all kidding about this. We're just trying to do some overhype. If you were interested in watching the game, Binghamton Bulldogs on Facebook will.
It'll definitely be a live post. I mean, if you are trying to get down to the dog pound 3.1, I would highly recommend. I mean, I'm planning on doing a Coach K style. I'm planning on camping outside St. Pat's. I've got my tent already lined up and cleaned off. Ken, if you want to pop in the tent, just let me know. We'll be down in Dog Pound Town.
He'll move the Shrine of Daniel Jones to give you room.
I'll move the Coach K shrine over, and you can humbly stay there. But I'm not kidding. Get down there early.
Yeah, get there early. That is the one thing we are very serious about.
I already told my wife she has a mother-daughter tea thing that's going from 3 to 5. I said as soon as you get in the door, I am leaving because I'm not I was like, I'm not kidding, Aaron. I am getting out the door as soon as you get home because I'm gonna need to get down to St. Pat's.
Yeah.
So be ready around 5, Pat. Ken, if I'm picking you up.
No, absolutely. I got to tell Dog too as well. So
yes,
we're gonna be down there. It's gonna be a fun night of basketball. It's gonna be a really great game. Both teams are very good. It's gonna be a fun night, and that's what we're trying to stress. We're having a little fun here with it on the show, saying about how crazy it's gonna get. But we are just saying it's going to be a highly emotional night, a lot of back and forth, a lot of physical basketball. So be ready for that.
I'm just saying be smart. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
Just be smart. And that's not a bad thing to say.
No, it is not. That being said, let's run these bases and take it home. Pat, lead us off.
Oh, I'm going to talk a little baseball because it's been a minute since we've discussed the Houston Astros discipline and possible fallout of their cheating allegations. It came out in a report from Jeff Passan of ESPN today that discipline and the severity of what they're going to be hit with is going to be coming down within the next 2 weeks, according to, like I said, Jeff Passan. He says, quote, the targets for discipline will be employees of the team, including the front office and on-field coaching personnel, but will not include the players involved in the scheme, according to 3 players who have been interviewed. Those who could face discipline include Astros general manager Jeff Luhnow, Astros manager AJ Hinch, and other front office members. Sources said the team could also face a record fine. Now, this is going to, of course, be a litmus test because a couple of years ago, I want to say it was 2017, the Yankees and Astros got busted for using technology to try and get an advantage. I believe one of the teams, there was an Apple Watch involved, something like that. But MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred put out a statement or a memo, whatever you want to call it, basically saying, cut in layman's terms, in Spark Notes, Cliff Notes versions, cut the nonsense or else you're going to get hit with some penalties. So this is going to be a litmus test of if they come down hard on the team, it's really going to discourage other teams from doing it and go, oh, whoa, we don't want to do this because, if this is the minimum that we're going to get hit with, we don't want to do this. And if they go too lightly on them, the other teams are going to look at it and go, oh, that's all they got? Let's go ahead and do this. The interesting thing with this is another report came out today from The Athletic, which stated that the Boston Red Sox used their video replay room to steal signs from opposing pitchers and catchers during their 2018 World Series championship season. It says, quote, citing 3 anonymous people who were with the Boston Red Sox in 2018, that Boston players would visit the replay room to decipher their opponent's sign sequence and then relay the information to the dugout. Someone from the Red Sox dugout would then communicate with a base runner who would use body movements to relay pitch information to the batter. Quote, we were recently made aware of allegations suggesting the inappropriate use of our video replay room. We take these allegations seriously and will fully cooperate with MLB as they investigate the matter. Close quote. This coming from the Boston Red Sox in a statement to The Athletic. Now they say in the report, like I mentioned, that they decipher the signs and then relay it to the batter using movements and base runners. Movements and base runners conveying what the pitch is going to be to the batter is fine. That's if you're doing it and you're looking at the catcher and saying, oh, this sign means this pitch, that sign means that pitch. What's not good is using technology. Technology, as has been put out by MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred, that's in the rules, as we've said in past episodes, is against the rules of baseball. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Astros, and then B, that's going to be kind of the benchmark if anything happens with the Red Sox.
More cheating allegations in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
No comment.
Yeah.
I've already said enough today.
Yeah, baseball's got to come down if these allegations are true.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. I mean, you're finding out more and more, and your sport is getting definitely tainted by this.
And it's going to be real interesting because, like we mentioned, the Astros 2017 season is kind of the one that's being looked at most. And now you've got the Red Sox 2018 season being looked at. Current Red Sox manager Alex Cora on both teams.
Yeah.
So not looking good for Alex Cora.
No, definitely not. Have to wait and see. Stay tuned for more info on that. Coach, what you got?
Yeah, so the XFL came out with some of their rules today. Obviously released their entire rule book, kind of just going to go over some of the more detailed things or interesting points that they had. So, for example, kickoffs, no player will be allowed to move until either the ball is caught or is hit the ground for greater than 3 seconds. So, a way to try and increase, I guess, returns, but also
safety.
Yeah. So kind of interesting little fine line that they have to have there.
Yeah.
Punts, again, same thing. Players are not allowed to move until the ball has been kicked. Also, an interesting thing is if there is a punt that goes into the end zone, it will now be picked up at the 35-yard line instead of the 20 like the NFL. There will be 3 scoring options for after a touchdown.
Okay.
So you can either go for a 1-point, 2-point, or a 3-point try. The 3-point play will be from the 10-yard line, obviously increase in, which, I mean, okay, I guess.
A little weird.
A little weird, yeah. I mean, that's one of the more ones that's like, all right, that's a little bit
That's
out
reaching.
there. Yeah. Overtime, obviously highly contested controversy in the NFL right now. They're going to opt for the shootout, which is going to be each team's going to line up and have one play from their 5-yard line to score. I don't understand how the college one doesn't work. If you don't want to start the ball at the 35-yard line, then start at the 25, and that would be perfectly fine. I mean, the 5-yard line to me is limiting the offense as far as scoring because it's really hard and difficult to score in that 15-yard line, from the 5-yard line to the back of the end zone. One of that I found was very, very interesting and very weird. 2 forward passes will be allowed on any given play as long as the first forward pass does not cross the line of scrimmage.
What?
So the encouragement here is to try and create more trick plays and more opportunities for, bigger, more dynamic plays, I guess. And then lastly,
all of a sudden the 07 Boise State team's trying to get into the XFL.
Yeah, right. And then lastly, one that I saw that was kind of interesting was that I lost it here. Offensive linemen will be able to go downfield a little further. So in the NFL, if it is a forward pass, they're not allowed to go anywhere past the line of scrimmage.
Right.
In the XFL, they will be allowed to go 2 to 3 yards past the line of scrimmage on any given pass play.
I'd say I think for me the most interesting one out of that bunch has got to be the kickoff one that the teams can't move until the ball is caught. I can't help but picture this in my head that like on the kicking team, outside of the kicker, you're going to have every defender there lining up like they're Usain Bolt in the track race. Like that familiar stance you got where they're just going to get ready to bolt down the field.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the NFL had limited to where, there was a 4 or 5 years ago, it was a 5-yard head start. Then this past year it changed to where now they have to line up on the 35 and they're not allowed to move.
Yeah.
And now wedges were limited to 3 players versus the previous 5. So, I mean, there's a lot that both organizations are trying to do to combat potential injury on the kickoff, which is, to me, one of the most dangerous plays in all of football.
Yeah.
So I like the rule. Like I like the idea of nobody able to move besides the returner and the kicker. To me, it's it's still a dangerous play regardless because of the fact that now if these players aren't able to move and that kick returner is able to get, that big of a head start, I think it's going to be really difficult for the kickoff coverage team to be able to not only stay in their lanes but be able to then go track down a guy who has, depending on situation, I mean, he could be not reaching top speed but pretty close to it by the time they get to him. So, I mean, for them now, it's going to be taking a lot of the kickoff team is going to take a lot of the brunt of the hits versus what it was previously, which was the return team.
Right.
XFL.
I mean, it's what I do like about the rules is it's still football.
Yeah.
It's not gimmicky like it was previous,
Yeah,
which I like.
I just need to see the product for the first week before I really make an opinion.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is some of the finer things. I mean, I want to see more of like when the original XFL came out, like you were only able to play a 4-3 defense and you could only rush the passer or blitz one guy on third down. So like those finer rules, those are kind of the things that I'm interested in seeing because I want to know if they're just going to let them go out and play football and not limit to, what you can do as far as an offense or a defense. From the sounds of things, it sounds like they're just going to let people go in and play, which I think will help the product on the field. But yeah, I think the rules are better than what they were previously because it's going to be football.
We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the XFL 2.0 has got a lot of ground to make up for the first season it was in business, so we'll have to wait and see.
Well, and they also got to try and differentiate themselves from, I already forget what it was.
The AAF.
The AAF, where, they came in as, we're the other product. If you don't like the NFL and, if you don't like what the NFL has become, watch our product, and they fizzled out within 3 months.
But they fizzled out because we are NFL minor. We're we're my NFL, the second league. Like the XFL, I think, is still trying to differentiate themselves while also saying like we're still football. We're just not the NFL, and we're not worried about the NFL. We're over here doing our own thing. Where the AFF or AAF
was trying to be the minor league.
Was trying to be the minor league, and I think the XFL is approaching it right. And I actually think that Vince is doing a really solid job because I think he's really staying out of it compared to where he was last time.
We can only wait and see on that one. Speaking of Vince, let's talk a little pro wrestling recap, shall we? Obviously, WWE came back strong this week for Monday Night Raw. We've talked about...
or did it come out big?
See what you did there. We touched upon this lightly on the wrestling show you can find over on 8122productions.com. Rich and I were doing a little discussion and kind of was talking about the bad that was last week's Raw. We don't need to get into it because I don't get all fired up. So we'll just get into this week. And the big announcement was Brock Lesnar is entering the Royal Rumble.
Drake Maverick for number 2, please.
Oh, if only. He'll get F5'd into the 5th row. So that being said, he is entering at number 1. The title is not on the line, but obviously if he is going to win said Royal Rumble, who does everybody face at WrestleMania? Because obviously the winner of the Royal Rumble match gets a title shot at whichever belt they want to go for. So that being said, what do you think of this move?
I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, the last time that the WWE title was, of course, in the Royal Rumble was the year Roman had it, and I think, what was that, like 2017? Something like that. So, of course, the belt's not on the line, but I think it's interesting, and reading some reports and some rumors that, they're going to use this as a way to set up Brock's match at WrestleMania. Okay. I mean, it'll be interesting to see him in it because with the reports that, the Royal Rumble field is going to be split between NXT, SmackDown, and Raw. And it sounds like there aren't going to be many room, if any at all, for any surprise returns like you typically see with wherever the Royal. I think it's in Houston this year, so you might see some Texas. Normally, you'd see some Texas area wrestlers that have been on the roster in years past return. It sounds like there won't be much room for that. So I think it adds a bit of mystique to it that what's going to happen? Is he going to run through everybody? It'll be interesting.
My take on it is it just shows the state of the company right now that they don't have a guy who they can peg and pencil in as a legitimate contender for Brock to win the Rumble and face him at Mania. There's not a face that's over enough. I mean, obviously Daniel Bryan is tied in with Bray Wyatt right now, which I feel like that's probably going to go past or to WrestleMania. And then on the flip side of it, you've got The Miz, who potentially just turned heel. Seth Rollins did just turn heel. Kevin Owens is tied with Samoa Joe the program.
He's also kind of an in-between.
Yeah, and he's also tied to the program with Seth Rollins. So it's like Raw has 0 over baby faces right now that are worthy enough to challenge Brock Lesnar. So having him be in the Rumble is the only way that they can get him in a position to even have a match at Mania. And really, outside of somebody eliminating him and then creating that animosity, the old Razor Ramon 1, 2, 3 kid story that they tried doing with Taker and the guy from Tough Enough a few 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, Maven.
Maven, yeah. Outside of that, I don't really know what else they can do. So now just saying that off the top of my head, Matt Riddle feels like the absolute perfect position for this.
Well, and it's
Riddle would be.
And it's funny you say that because I just had the same thought. Obviously we know NXT is going to be in the Royal Rumble. Riddle has been calling out Lesnar for, like a year and a half. It feels like, how wild would it be, hypothetical, alternate universe, Riddle's in the Royal Rumble, eliminates Brock. That you go and turn on NXT, whatever day, Wednesday leading up to WrestleMania, and Brock shows up on NXT. How wild would that be?
Yeah, it would be incredible for them. It would be a huge ratings boost.
Ultimately, I think it sucks that this is the position that they're in right now because of the way that they position their baby faces. That there isn't anybody.
No, even the big return last night of the Big Show, which isn't going to move the needle. No, you're not going to see that match at Mania.
I mean, it was a better reveal than they could have, because I know when you and I were watching, Ken, we were sitting there trying to figure out who it was all night, and nobody was immediately coming to mind.
I kept thinking Ricochet.
Well, we said at one point we said watch it be Ricochet. That like they were hyping. I was afraid, and Big Show it ended up being a nice surprise because I was like, oh, I thought he was. I think we both said we thought he was retired. That it ended up being a nice surprise, but it ended up being better than what I thought it was going to be. That they were hyping it up all night, and it was going to be like a Cedric Alexander or something like that.
Well, we'll have to kind of wait and see where they go. Obviously, the road to the Royal Rumble is coming very, very quickly. We'll see some moves start shaking up because they've already started announcing some names in the field, but there's a lot more to be named, and who knows what surprises they're going to dig up. It's anybody's guess, but Brock being number one, it's very interesting, and to see some of the faces returning, who knows what's going to be in the mix, but stay tuned for more information on that. So let's close this out. We're not going to do locks and leaps. We're just going to give our picks of who is going to win this divisional round of the NFL playoffs. So let's start with the first game, Vikings at 49ers. Coach, who you got?
49ers.
Pat?
Well, I should note that as we sit here recording currently, San Francisco is a 7-point favorite. I'm going to go shocking upset, and you like that. I'm going to go Vikings.
Okay. I'm taking the 49ers. So next game up on the docket, Titans at Ravens. Coach?
Ravens.
Ravens.
Yeah, Ravens. Ravens big, too.
Currently favored by 10 points.
Yeah, I take that.
I mean, I think that this game actually probably is going to be really slow because both teams are going to run the shit out of the ball. So, I mean, it is going to be like maybe a 16-10 game, 17-10 game. Like, it's going to be slow.
I'm going to say 30-10.
Whoa.
I'm going out on a limb. I think Lamar Jackson's had 2 weeks off, and he's going to come out guns blazing.
I think it'll be slow and kind of like a boxing match early on, but I think Baltimore's speed and just the dynamic offense that they have is going to wear Tennessee down very much.
Could possibly happen. So let's flip it to Sunday. Texans at Chiefs. Coach?
Oh, Chiefs.
Pat?
I'll say no disrespect to Bill O'Brien and everything they got going down in Houston, but Kansas City.
Kansas City, too. I got them. And the last game of the weekend, Seahawks at Packers. Coach?
Oh, man, this is tough because Green Bay at home, Seattle. I'm going to go Seattle.
Same. The Seattle really showed me something going into Philly. Now, granted, I know there was a Carson Wentz injury and that whole thing, but still going into Philly in a playoff atmosphere is never an easy thing to do. I think they're going to not be shaken by the Green Bay faithful and everybody at Lambeau Field going nuts. I think they'll be able to pull it off.
Is there such thing as cheese Skittles?
Not that I know of, no.
And it sounds disgusting, but
it does.
I'm taking Seattle with this one, too. I like them right now. I mean, they're my pick to win it right now. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens this weekend. That being said, the music you heard on this episode is that of Fair City Fire. They have got a lot of things going on down in Austin, Texas, so if you want to check out faircityfire.com for more information on that, or just head over to ochoduroparlayhour.com/music. You can find out all about them. Shout out to Robots, Floodlands, Walking Distance, Honker, all the great music that you hear on the ODPH every episode. You can find out who makes it and where to go download it yourself so you can have it at your house. You can also check out the ODPH directory, which has 3 Fat Nerds, Horizon 607, Off the Cuff Gaming, Excite Wrestling, and 8122productions.com, which has the Patreon of all Patreons, Love is Scary. Dr. Derek has vowed more content. Is Spooky Mike ready for it? I don't know. I don't think he is. I don't think we're all ready. But for $1 a month, you can find out for yourself.
This just in, Alberto Del Rio is potentially been named for the Royal Rumble.
I'd rather listen to more Love is Scary, and I will give $2 a month then to see ADR back in the Royal Rumble. Please, no, after the whole Tito fight. That has just thrown me off completely. So on OchoDuroParlayHour.com, you can find out all about that and definitely go support them. Go support our friends over in hashtag NXTWAVE, hashtag PodNation, hashtag 607Podcast. You can find out all about them on the buttons on the front page, take you to the Podchaser list. Go listen to any one of those podcasts. You will not be disappointed. And also check out Parlay Points, a complimentary blog to the ODPH podcast, because that is all I got for this week. You have really thrown me off with that, Coach.
Damn, no, George was messing with me. God damn it, George Gatton.
George Gatton is now banned from the show until
Ban
April.
him. You're banned.
Yeah, he's
You're
banned.
out.
He's banned.
You son of a gun.
George.
Fucking every time he gets me with this stuff.
Yeah, to let all our listeners know, George tries chiming in when we're recording and give us a wild wrestling rumor, but this one he was screaming legitimately, and he knows how much I cannot.
I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, isn't he with some other company right now? I was like, no.
That matters to Del Rio anyway.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of his wrestling work, so seeing him in the Royal Rumble is not the big surprise. So, George, trust us, we'll have something for you sooner than later, my friend, if I have to mail it down to Austin myself. That being said, that's all I got for this week. So, for your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
Good night, and I hate George Gatton.
For Padawan J.
Thank you, and John Calipari, still coaching Kentucky.
I'm your host, Ken M. George Gatton, we're coming for you. Thank you for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.